This week, we welcome Zane Lackey, founder and chief security officer over at Signal Sciences. In our second feature interview for tonight's show, we welcome Limor Elbaz, which I hope I pronounced correctly, the founder of PeerList. Limor is an entrepreneur and product evangelist, business development, and security expert. In the security news this week, hackers put airport security system access on the dark web, a vulnerability or actually a poisoned PDF package in Linux. Chrome defends from Spectre, and Cisco patches a bug in their VoIP phones. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Welcome. Did Larry have an introduction? Hi, everyone. This is Paul Asador, and I guess I'm introducing...
Apparently, I no longer do. Wow, and I look short.
So, I accidentally landed in New England and stumbled my way to the G-Unit studio.
That's pretty much how I envisioned it happening, Jeff. Carlos, save the show, please.
Yes, somebody's got to do it.
It cannot be saved.
Well, it's good to have you back, Carlos. Jeff, welcome. Nice to have you in studio.
It's great to be here, Paul. Try to stay awake for the whole episode.
Yes. We've been in studio dropping his phone incessantly. Welcome, Chad.
What? Where? Oh, hey! I'm in the studio with you guys. That's kind of cool.
The average time between being hacked and realizing you've been hacked is 1 year. Can you afford to let an intruder roam your network for that long? Can your company weather the fallout when this comes to light? Black Hills Information Security can find the bad guys in your network and train you to do it yourself. Email consulting at blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a hunt teaming engagement can help you find a persistent threat in your network. NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with their proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email at contact@netsparker.com.
And welcome to the show. It's good to be back. But first, let me introduce you to our host. He's a man who I've known to exclaim on more than one occasion, "These cheese fries are gangsta." Paul Asador.
Welcome, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. This is episode 567. This is, in fact, Thursday, July 12th, 2018. And we are, Larry and I, anyhow, are at G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, broadcasting live and recording for all of prosperity to be posted on the internet.
Oh, God, I hope we're recording. Remember that first one?
Yes. There's been a lot of first podcasts that didn't get recorded, right? I think it's like a christening, like a good luck thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage.
It is.
It comes out better the second time.
It is.
That's
of
what
course,
she said.
by the time you're at 567, hopefully it's better, although that's debatable. So, a couple of quick announcements. We have a pool cabana. Actually, we have two pool cabanas. So if you're attending Black Hat or DEF CON, we at Mandalay Bay will be at a pool cabana.
Yep, for RSA.
And
Not for RSA, for Black Hat.
It'd be kind of cold at RSA to have a pool cabana. It's hot in Vegas. So at Mandalay Bay, Black Hat, and Caesar's Palace for DEF CON will be in the pool area. So, I mean, like, bring your swimsuits and stuff. Now, we've also got a very special giveaway in project. Many of you heard Gary Berman and Tom Brennan come on the show. Gary's the author of this really cool comic book, right? The Cyber Adventures comic book. And it's all about, security awareness and raising awareness and educating people about cybersecurity issues. Sorry for lack of a better term, I said cyber a lot there, but you can get your free copy. We've got like our little logo and description on the inside cover. You will get a free copy of that. Gary will be spending some time with us at the pool and signing some copies as well. So that'll be available exclusively if you come visit us at the pool cabana. Great to take back to your coworkers and or family or friends.
Nice.
And just a cool thing to have.
Now, that said, is there also any T-shirt sales going on inside, or is
Yes, in the vendor area at DEF CON, we will be selling T-shirts, shot glasses, as well as giving away some stuff. I don't know if we're going to sell. We bought the computer glasses. We might give a select amount of those away, and then they'll be for sale in the at the booth for a lot less money than you'd buy gunners for, because there's cheaper versions of gunners. So if you want to test out computer glasses, we will have some for sale. Of course, stickers will be there as well, and books. Offensive Countermeasures book and Alan White's Blue Team Field Manual will be for sale at our booth. So, come check it out for sure. It'll be a lot of fun. Alrighty, Zane Lackey has joined us. He is no stranger to the Security Weekly Network.
You forgot 2 people that are on.
Oh, thank you, Larry. God.
Thank you, Larry. I'm glad we count for something.
You do. You do in my mind, guys.
I guess Keith Hoodlet's here on the lines via Skype. I suppose it's okay. He's okay. No, I'm just kidding, Keith. Welcome, Keith Hoodlet on the lines via Skype. Thank you for joining.
Good eye, Paul. How's it going?
Now I'm really confused. Joff Thayer is also on the lines via Skype.
Joff, stop moving. You're throwing your weight balance off.
Wait.
Your head's really shiny.
Yeah. G'day, Paul. My name's not Keith.
Thanks for that, guys. Love you. So, okay, now we have Zane Lackey here with us. Zane, welcome to Security Weekly. How are you?
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here. I'm not even going to attempt an Australian accent or anything. That just it'd end terribly for everybody.
Yeah, accents kind of go bad when I try them as well, so I try and stay clear. It looks like you're in like a pub. Are you in a pub?
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. Expect like a World Cup replay going on right here or something. No, I'm in a phone booth, but it could use a bar. That's for sure.
Yeah. What else are they going to do with those phone booths, right? They might as well take the phones out. You put some.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, if you're not going to put a bar in there, really, what's the point of having the phone booth in the first place?
Is the phone booth at Signal Sciences like headquarters? Like, do you guys have a phone booth in your office?
No, we've got a bunch of different phone rooms in headquarters. I'm in New York today, so I'm actually stopped in a WeWork right now just to get a quiet place to do a call. But the office has a few different cool things in it.
I was going to say, that reminded me very much of one of the phone cubicles at one of the WeWork offices. And I was right.
There you go.
It's awesome.
Hey, maybe we can all band together and ask for bars in all of them.
There you go.
Well, don't you have the bar out front with the beer and the kombucha?
True. Yeah. If I just get up and disappear at any point during this interview, we'll come back with a beer. You're going to see. You're going to know why.
So I suppose we should talk about web application security, although I think redesigning rented office cubicles is a much better topic and more fun in some ways. But Zane, you and I were talking earlier, and I wanted to address some of the challenges and some of the things that we've heard, you and I collectively, that we've heard from enterprise businesses, their security teams, about some of their challenges with protecting web applications. Now, certainly, like, we could do an entire podcast on application security. Oh, wait. No, wait. We do that, and Keith is here.
Every Monday, in fact. Yes, Paul.
Every Monday afternoon. Every Monday afternoon, Application Security Weekly. But I wanted to talk about some of the technical challenges and concerns that the various security teams have when they're implementing some type of web application protection. And I think the first concern, certainly from the security team and likely the operations team, is on deployment. Like, how do I deploy some kind of protection? Like, is it a WAF on the network? Does it live in the application? Does it hook the container? Like, I've got, in a lot of enterprises, right, they've got not just 2 development teams, maybe they've got 30 or 40, and they're dealing with thousands of applications. So deployment, it brings forth some very interesting technical challenges.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at enterprise scale, you have every different technology. You've got different business units, different acquisitions that you might have totally different political relationships with. I mean, at enterprise scale, deployment is the challenge, for sure. It's something that in my previous CISO role, dealt with a bunch as we had different acquisitions coming in and different teams operating very autonomously and everything like that. It was really that the old model where we had, physical appliances sitting off a spam port in the data center. It worked for how we used to run infrastructure and applications, but you flash forward to how an enterprise is today, and you've got folks operating, some teams in the cloud, other teams looking at containerization and things like that, other teams still in data centers, and you need something that was actually flexible enough to be able to cover all of that. And that was really the position I found myself in, which is that there was looking around on the market, especially across like the legacy WAF vendors that I had in place at the time. None of them were really stepping up to meet that whole deployment challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even challenges if you have a traditional architecture, right, in that deployment, just scalability there. And then I think we like to think that everyone's using containers now because we've been talking about it more and more, and we're just like, oh, well, deployment gets easy. Like if you're doing DevOps and you have a container environment, like you just hook the container and it's part of your DevOps tool chain, and you're off to the races. And enterprises today, I think, as Zane's pointed out, like they're starting to use it, but I think very few large shops are really like, you can't just flip a switch and go, hey, look, I put everything in. You like containers so much, I put all of your containers inside containers. It's awesome.
What is this utopia that you speak of, Paul? And where does it exist?
Right? So,
Joe Dog, I heard you like containers, so I put containers in your containers.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. But I think there's, a lot of technical challenges, such as do you proxy it? And if you're building it into something, like logistically, how do you do that, right? And get that out into all of your environments and make sure that it stays there.
Yeah, I mean, what I found at Etsy in my previous CISO role, and then flash forward to today, Signal Sciences, but vendor alert there, was that we needed optionality, right? We needed something that was flexible enough that I could drop in regardless of the technical architecture, regardless of if it's a super forward-leaning team that's operating inside containers in public cloud, or a different team that's kind of taking the infrastructure as a service approach, and maybe that's in public cloud, or maybe it's in kind of private cloud. And then teams that are still, making minimal changes to kind of legacy applications, still, operating in our data centers and have no immediate plans to move. What the biggest shift that I really saw that I had to live through and kind of live very painfully was we had to go from that hardware-based model to a pure software-based model, and not the kind of, oh, let's just go make a VM of the hardware appliance that my vendors were really trying to sell me. Like, I needed something that was very software native and that I could drop in and plug into the application or into the web server or function as a software reverse proxy or sit inside the platform as a service offering that teams were looking at. I needed real optionality and real flexibility there. And that was really, we had to learn that lesson very painfully and build a bunch of technology in-house at Etsy. And then that was kind of one of the key facets of the founding story of Signal Sciences is, we really saw so many of our peers seeing the same challenges. And then we stepped out to actually turn that into a product.
Keith, do you have comment, questions? I know this is an area that you work in and, of course, the primary host for our Application Security Weekly show.
Yeah, I guess the biggest question that I have is, when you're working with those companies that are trying to build this model itself, right? So they don't necessarily have the DevOps model today, but they want to. What does that look like maybe, to start? Do you ever work with those companies that they want this, but they don't know where it's going to fit inside of their tool chain or what have you? And then from there, how do you see Signal Sciences taking those companies and saying, okay, you guys are doing great now, but this is what it could look like depending on your needs or your abilities. So maybe you work with those customers that are really forward-leaning, like say Netflix, for example, is an example of a company that's really forward-leaning. How do you cover that gamut of different companies doing different things?
Totally, and it really we really see both sides of that spectrum. Actually, our customers today. So the ones that are at the absolute leading edge of that kind of DevOps and cloud movement, they're customers, which is really exciting. And then we have a number of customers who are just at the absolute very beginning of their cloud journey and DevOps journey. And they've got us running in, classic kind of waterfall data center applications. I think really what everyone's facing is the same challenge that we faced in-house as CISOs ourselves, which was that our legacy WAFs, whether that was, Imperva or F5 or Akamai, we were running into so many challenges with them that were causing us so many political nightmares internally that they're really looking for, what we see with our clients is they're really looking for a new approach on that. And sometimes that coincides with their journey into DevOps and cloud. Other times they're just excited that they can solve those massive WAF headaches that they've had for the last several years. And then they're excited that saying, okay, and this is something that's going to support us on our 24-month journey here to bring some of our applications in the cloud. They're still going to actually work with all of that, but it's by no means a prerequisite of what we see. We see a lot of our customers still in data centers, actually, and they're looking to solve the classic WAF challenges that we've all lived through and those massive pain points.
If only not Kevin was here to hear us talking about WAF. He gets so excited when we talk about WAF.
Well, because his solution to everything is put a WAF.
Just put a WAF in front of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Drop some WAF on it. Yeah, exactly.
That's see, Zane, you're channeling not Kevin now.
Yeah. So here to help.
As a follow-up question to that, though, especially for what you guys are protecting against, right? Do you ever see, the detections that you have and the blocking that you're doing lead to actual changes inside of the organization to say, hey, look, you're getting attacked in this way, and then suddenly you see the companies turn around and say, oh my God, we're getting attacked. We need to actually start doing application security now. Is that like something that you've encountered before? And if it is, how have you seen that change kind of the way that your companies that you work with behave?
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to that question of around like kind of the blocking and all of that, and then the real vision, which is on the visibility and the behavior change and everything there. The blocking side, I mean, the dirty secret of WAF that we've all known through all of our careers, right, is that you never actually get the WAF into blocking mode, right? You go put it in monitor mode, you show the auditor that it's there, and you turn it off as fast as possible before it actually breaks real traffic. The exciting and crazy statistic that we get to share that I don't expect anyone to believe, because if I saw a vendor on a podcast saying this, I wouldn't believe them. But it's that 95% of our customers are in full blocking mode for their production traffic, with no learning, with no tuning, none of that, which is it's a metric that we're particularly proud of. But then that leads into the back half of your question, which is really affecting behavior change, which is we all as security teams are so underwater that we need ways that can kind of bring security visibility to our application teams and our DevOps teams and give them visibility and really do it in a way that hopefully kind of starts to change behavior and makes them more kind of focused on security. And that's been actually some of the most, just personally rewarding feedback that we've gotten from security teams is we've had that situation happen with our clients multiple times. They've been able to drop us in and then bring the visibility directly to the application team and give them dashboards and kind of insights and plugging into their DevOps tool chain or their logging tool chain or anything there so that they can start to really own the security health of their own services. And we've seen folks come back and say, oh, this part of the service, we never expected anybody to attack. So we weren't prioritizing any of the findings that you, the security team, had sent us. And then they start to see real attacks there, and they can go back to the security team and they say, hey, we're actually going to prioritize in our next sprint some of those issues that you'd raised with us because we're actually seeing real people go there. It's not just the security team, yelling about, there's going to be threats. They're actually able to see real data. I think the biggest comparison, actually, I think is really with teams that have deployed any of the performance monitoring tools. So Datadog, New Relic, App Dynamics, any of those, and how it's able to really bring capabilities to the application team so that they can start to look into the performance health of their services. They're using us in the same way, but for security.
Zane, I want to segue from that and talk about another issue with, I think, both accuracy and kind of overcoming the challenges that we've had with WAF. And I think you were kind of describing some of the differences between the technologies today and why when we look at WAF and maybe RASP technologies, why is it so difficult to tune it, to trust the accuracy of those products? And can you just speak to that? You talked about regular expressions and versus those approaches. I think that's important because as practitioners, we're really, why doesn't that work that way? And when you said, well, it's like regular expressions trying to be applied to every request, I was like, wow, that resonates with me. Why is that?
Yeah. I mean, let me share a very painful and embarrassing story on this, which was a time that I caused a pretty sweet outage across Etsy because I had turned on one of our legacy WAFs in blocking mode. And it decided that any request that contained the words union and select must be SQL injection because those words are in there. So it has to be, their regexes and their signatures lit off on that. What it was select the Union Jack flag at checkout And so he turned that on and broke the entire UK.
Oh, no.
And if you want to have a fun story to share with the business, it's why you flatlined all graphs for an entire geography because you turned on a WAF. That was a fun Tuesday morning, let me tell you. And it really started to inspire a lot of this kind of shift in the way to think about detection and coverage on the WAF side of things. And I think the biggest parallel exactly to kind of the way that you were alluding there is that the way that we think about that model is kind of in the same way that like Carbon Black and CrowdStrike and Cylance and these modern endpoint protection tools change the problem on that side, which is you used to have kind of legacy AV that tried to bundle a bunch of signatures and regexes into a super heavyweight client and then try to make a ton of decisions on the fly there. And the problem is that's a really tough problem, to put it mildly. And so you saw on the endpoint side of things, they went to a model that said, look, let's make the agent much more lightweight. Let's make it, intelligent, but really lightweight. And let's have it kind of communicate with a cloud backend where it can get smarter and smarter over time and really leverage kind of the best of both worlds there. And that's one of the reasons why you see this kind of modern approach to AV being much more effective. Obviously, I'm doing this from a 30,000 foot view and there's a bunch of specific reasons in there. But what we do on the Signal Sciences side, and even forgetting Signal Sciences here, but just talking about a modern way of doing this, is adopting that same sort of philosophy and saying, look, rather than having a big, heavy legacy WAF try to sit there and apply 10,000 regexes to every request, let's have a really lightweight agent that's not causing performance impact, that's not causing reliability issues. And let's have it kind of communicate in a way with the cloud backend where it can continuously get smarter over time and get more and more intelligence over time and leverage that same sort of model. And so that's what we actually do in our approach. And that's really what, regardless of Signal Sciences, I think that's the modern way to think about defending web applications, is adopting that same sort of model so that you can get a much more intelligent approach there. Rather than trying to bundle 50,000 regexes into a super heavyweight agent that kills your performance and your reliability and you with false positives.
And what's kind of upsetting is that I think in both approaches, that whether it's 50,000 regexes or like the cloud-based approach, they're both trying to call it machine learning. And what we've learned to dice through is, no, those that are actually applying machine learning and making it practical and usable, and not just using it as a marketing term, are the ones that are actually able to help people improve security in their organizations.
Oh, absolutely. I think if we each say machine learning 3 times in a row, we summon a VC in a term sheet somewhere that pops up.
Beetlejuice. Oh, wait.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. We need some blockchain in there, guys. Come on. Let's
blockchain. Oh, man. Well, you got to do something with all your AI. That's for sure. In the,
right.
In the cyber.
But and we joke though, Zane, but artificial intelligence isn't, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about analyzing data and deriving some conclusions from that data and then applying that knowledge, giving it to the lightweight agent that's in your application.
That's exactly it, right? Shifting from that signature and regex-based model to actually looking with much more context and really kind of taking a tokenization-based approach and everything there, and combining that with real cloud intelligence where it can look across everything and get a more accurate picture of what's going on, right? If you think about, even forget WAF here entirely, just think about anything that's constrained to one box sitting in one data center. Well, that made sense when that was our entire footprint. But, you're an enterprise, you have a million different data centers, you have applications in different environments. And for one given, large scale app, it might be served out of half a dozen data centers around the world, plus some cloud components and everything there. And so if it's just trying to make decisions on only having one small view of the picture versus kind of taking a cloud approach where it can stitch everything together and really get much more context, it's pretty obvious which is going to just inherently be able to make a better decision.
So Zane, quickly, I think the third primary concern, right? So I identified 3 concerns, and who knows, they may turn into like some kind of blog post or something. Zane and I were kind of comparing notes, and I'm like, people's concerns with web application protection are usually deployment, the accuracy and tuning, which we touched on a little bit, but then performance, right? Yeah. They're like, if I put this in my app, is it going to make it slower? Like, they're very concerned about that, and rightfully so, because anything that's looking at traffic and making decisions could potentially impact performance. Another piece of software running on the system.
In some cases, it's my developers are so bad they can't write an efficient web app to save their lives. As if this makes it slower.
So it makes performance even more of an issue, right?
But we've got to have something because they can't code a web app to save their lives. Help me.
No, totally. I mean, and this, I think, applies to any new tool you bring into the organization, right?
Sure.
You speak to any security person who's done a rollout of a new product inside the organization, and whenever a performance issue happens for the next 6 months, that's the first thing to get blamed, right? And so could not agree more about that point, like we were talking about before. I really think there's kind of two ways in which you solve that problem, and which helped me internally as a CISO whenever I saw vendors taking this approach. I'd say the first is you have to do it architecturally, right? You really have to have an architecture that doesn't just say, oh, trust us, we won't crash and we won't break anything. Like, that doesn't fly, right? You need an architecture that kind of is provably fail open, has components that are entirely designed to be able to make hard guarantees around performance and reliability, and show, from an architectural perspective, even if everything goes wrong, here is the impact. And that impact can't be the customer traffic goes down. It has to be, okay, here's a fail open strategy. Here's how you're going to be alerted but not impacted, and all of that. And then the other side is really visibility into this, right? Because you can't have a black box deployment. You really need to be able to say, look here, and this is actually an approach we take in Signal Sciences, but this is really abstract and applies to any kind of modern security tooling. You need to provide visibility into the performance of your own software there. And so we actually have a whole separate set of dashboards that customers can look at that just show the performance on the box of both the agent and the box in general. And so, when you deploy and then 2 months down the line, a team comes to you and says, hey, we're having performance issues, it must be that new security thing that you deployed. You can actually show real data and say, nope, look, it's not. We've actually got visibility into this. Here's the architecture that shows that exactly the issue you're having can't even happen here. And we've got the data to actually show it. And I think that's what we're, as security practitioners, that's kind of the modern approach that we're all really hoping for in our modern tooling, is that we need sensible defaults and sane architectures, but we need data and visibility to back it up so that when that conversation inevitably happens, we're not just walking in and saying, trust us, we can actually show real data there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I've seen those dashboards. They're very nice, by the way.
Oh, thank you, man.
I mean, and at the same time, I think I got buzzword bingo through that whole segment. I've got every single, I think we heard cloud security, and I'm just kidding.
Exactly. We got AI, I think the only thing we missed was some blockchain in there, right?
No, I think we said,
we did. We did.
Yeah,
you're right.
Larry got the blockchain.
You use some AI and put some WAF in front of your blockchain. It's all good.
There we go.
Oh, babe.
I think if we formed a company, someone would invest, like right now.
Exactly.
What, putting WAF in front of your blockchain?
Yes.
Wow.
And
so
I know what you're thinking.
A quick question about, after you've implemented you've got the ability to show, it's not us when it comes to performance, right? Like, you can kind of call out those things. What does the feedback model look like to get problems back to development, right? So whenever you're looking at a DevOps, process, it's always fast, pushing of code or moving forward, rapid feedback, and then continuous learning. And so I'm curious to know as well what the feedback models or the feedback loops look like, because to that end, it's going to provide value to your developers even after they've written your potentially bad web application.
Keith, it kind of sounds like you're shopping or something, Keith.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I happen to be shopping, but even still, I personally, I mean, it's one of the things that's funny. You laugh, but this is quite literally my Bible. I'm holding up the DevOps handbook for those people that can't see it. Yes, it in fact has tabs on the side of all the different things that is going on, and I really do truly believe that a DevOps model is the way forward for most companies. And so part of that means, rapid feedback or to be able to get the things that you need back to development so they fix stuff. Because that's really where it's at the end of the day. So I want to know.
I totally agree. And I think that this is one of the biggest kind of existential shifts that's happening in security, but security in general, but security products and security tooling specifically, which is that security tooling for the past 20 years has been by and large meant to be consumed by security experts. And then it kind of gets kicked over the fence to development. And that feedback loop, I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, has not worked out well, right? It's been really tough from both sides. And so one of the hallmarks I would say that I look for of kind of modern security tooling that I'm bringing into my own organization to defend my own stuff, is really around security tooling that can meet developers and meet DevOps teams where they already are. And a lot of that is just starting with plugging into the tools that they're already using. Right? So we actually, in our own platform, we end up seeing some of our most commonly used integrations being Slack, PagerDuty, Jira, Datadog, and then on the other side of things, Splunk and Elk, and then some of the classic SIMs as well. But you have to be able to meet, like, what identifies a modern security tool to me is one that can actually meet the teams where they already are, so that you're not trying to impose more work on them and saying, oh, you have to remember to go check this thing once a week. No one's got time for that. You have to be able to say, hey, we're going to be able to send your team an alert in Slack or trigger a ticket being created in Jira. So it's already part of your workflow. And exactly to your point, really creating that feedback loop, whether they're embracing DevOps or not, it's about meeting development teams and ops teams or DevOps teams where they are and in the tools that they already use, so that you can empower them with information that's very relevant from the security side, but you're not asking them to do more work to go get it.
Paul, it's almost like he listens to Application Security Weekly.
DevOps handbook there and the premise.
Yeah, see, so Zane's in the know, man. Like, he's been doing this stuff for a long time. So
Keith and Zane, question, because I haven't seen it a lot, and I think maybe this goes to, Keith, your comment about this is where I think a lot of folks want to be, and this may be a little bit off tangent, a little bit off reservation, so to speak. But how many folks do you guys encounter that are actually using Slack for security type notifications as part of their daily workflow?
Zane, feel free to go first. I've seen a few, okay, but I comment on that after.
I see a mix. I'd say it's Slack in particular tends to align pretty heavily with kind of where they're at on a cloud or DevOps journey. Like, the further that they are on that is more likely that Slack is in there. I tend to see Jira much more common across the spectrum. And then I see PagerDuty a fair amount kind of mixed in there as well. Slack tends to come in when they're a little bit further in the journey. And then other times you'll see, I think this was part of your question as well, is it the development teams using it, or is it the security teams using it? And I tend to see the development teams gravitate to Slack much faster than the security teams do. But that I've seen the reverse in organizations as well, where the security teams are all in on something like that, and the development teams haven't picked it up yet. And so, I'd say there's no rule. There's just kind of the broader set of data that we're seeing there.
Okay, good. Because I question that because for me, when I specifically think about the security side, when you move to a cloud-hosted based service, and then you're going to dump all of your security alerts in a cloud-hosted based service that's potentially shared on infrastructure between a whole bunch of folks, that makes me have some questions.
So I think the reason that people do it, though, Larry, quite frankly, is because Slack has a lot of really great automation built into it. So the alerting, the ability to kind of do like, one touch, and not necessarily one touch fixing, but like going and getting all the details or additional details, or running bots that will then start to show you the automated chain that is taking place as a result of the alert that you received, right? So to mirror what Zane said, I would agree that most companies, as they move closer to that, cloud native model or DevOps model, are probably using Slack. But I would say that some of the enterprise organizations that I have spoken with, in my history working in vendor space, I guess you would say, and now no longer in vendor space, is some companies will gravitate toward more of what their business is using. So if they're a heavy Microsoft shop, they're probably using SharePoint, they're probably using Microsoft Teams, they're probably using, a whole host of Microsoft products like Office 365, et cetera, right?
Can we say Skype for business?
No, you can't.
Yeah. So that you still sometimes see that, which is scary and sad. But still,
wait, and hold on. So Slack is used for more than just Giphy, like image.
Believe it or not, Paul. Yes. I should teach you the ways of Slack. We can have a conversation after.
Oh no, I love Slack because it gives me the facility to use Giphy and upload memes. That's really just
and I like it because of some of that automation. I'm just questioning. For a while, you had some great automation, but when you put it in its own channel. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, we had some social media, alerting coming. I couldn't. There wasn't enough benefit there, and
Right.
and that's again why I find it interesting that enterprise teams are using it, because I'm like, I've tried to use it to help our business, and it's not really alignment, and we just kind of use it for communication and silly things. But obviously, there's some great use cases on the enterprise side.
There are some
for doing that.
huge use cases.
Yeah. And now that I think about it, when you're on a development team, there usually is some type of, back not too long ago, it was Jabber, right? Was it Jabber or
Jabber.
Silk?
Jabber,
was Silk.
Silk. Yep.
And then before that, it was IRC,
Yep.
right? Was the big, but now it's really just Slack. So,
Slack.
Admittedly, I've even seen it used by sales teams, believe it or not, right? So like celebrating a win of receiving a purchase order, or following up with things that are connected out into Salesforce, for example. There's
what do those Giphy images look like?
celebration. I'll just put it that way. I'll leave it at
I think there was one that showed up in our channel, something about being lit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Anyway.
But yeah.
Sorry,
I
I totally derailed you, Keith, which is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
What you would probably see, Paul, is there are probably pockets inside of large organizations that are using Slack and aren't supposed to be using Slack.
Yes,
it's kind of the other thing, right? There's definitely those teams that are using Shadow IT here. So,
So Zane, not to get nostalgic, right? But when we first started working together, that is our organizations respectively. I think you guys were just going for your Series A.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And
that's right.
I really truly feel like, and I believe me, I don't say this about every company in our industry, right? Like you guys have just like skyrocketed and have just continued this like monstrous growth in the industry. And I know this isn't like a Business Security Weekly or whatnot, but I just want to point that out for our larger audience. We tried to keep this more technical, but like your story is really cool and just a continuing journey of just like awesome. And I see that in all the people I speak with in our industry and our community. Like you guys have just been knocking it out of the park. Like how did you do that? Like what's the secret to your success?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. And we've got a long way to go for sure. But I think, I think the trait that we have that I've always looked for in the vendors that I really want to work with is we come from being practitioners, right?
Yeah.
Like the reason that we built Signal Sciences is because we had the same problem that so many of our peers have had around legacy WAFs in the past. And we finally got so fed up that we built something in-house, and we finally decided, hey, we're going to bite the bullet and become vendors ourselves because we really care about solving these problems, and we really feel so many of our peers going through the same thing. And so I think that like some of the best vendors I've ever worked with, right, like Duo and Hurumir's Canary, and all sorts of really interesting folks come from being practitioners, and that's kind of the best screening method I do, because we all get just avalanche of vendor email. Everyone, even me, the CISO of a vendor, I still get 1 million vendor emails a day.
Oh, I can do you one better, dude. We're registered as press and media for Black Hat. I get probably 25 emails a day. Do you want to meet with this person, that person?
I believe it.
And what's nice now is, and just a compliment, you're saying like Security Weekly is built the same way, right? Like we're practitioners. Yeah. We still are practitioners today. Mm-hmm. And now we get to kind of cherry pick which vendors that we want to take briefings with, that we want to, meet and interview. So, and it's kind of nice. And I think that your point of the company being formed by practitioners is something that would attract me when I see 25 emails a day from Black Hat. When I go research those companies, I want ones that are people who've been in there, they understand and relate to their customers in a way that they've been in the trenches together. So,
yeah. Oh, that's exactly it. And you kind of beat me to the punchline there of why I enjoy my conversations with you guys so much. Is like, it's great when you get to actually have real conversations with other practitioners, right? Because we're all facing the same stuff. And the more that we can help each other, the better. And it's always my favorite conversation.
A great time to remind our audience that in the pool area at Mandalay Bay, Signal Sciences will be next to us. And the whole reason we have a pool cabana is because last year Sam came to me and said, I was just out at the pool and Signal Sciences has a cabana. And I'm like, yes. Like, she didn't have to finish the sentence. I'm like, I know where you're going. And I'm like, totally yes. Like, next year. And she was like, so for both Black Hat and I'm like, yes, for both conferences. So at Black Hat will be next to Signal Sciences. So when you get to visit us or visit Signal Science, visit us at the pool, you also have Signal Sciences right next door, so you can stop by and have a chat, which is great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hanging out by the pool, and we all get to escape the vendor area that way.
Yes.
So we all go hang out and have a good time there.
And Zane's going to be wearing a Speedo. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
What? Him too? Sweet.
Now I feel really bad that I'm going to miss this.
We've got some Security Weekly branded Speedos that we're thinking about printing up, Zane. So,
There we go.
Do they say Twitchy pwned my box?
No, I was telling them about that. That goes way back in history.
Yes.
Hey, in some countries, Speedos are acceptable.
Okay, Joff, seriously, though, leave your Speedo at home. Just saying, love you and all, but...
They're acceptable, but
I make that
for the
Speedo
last
look
time, they're
good.
not acceptable on stage. You have to be wearing them at the pool.
Right. Yes, not at the conference. That would be hilarious, though.
Ellie tells me.
Now let's see if Joff's memory holds up for Black Hat DEF CON.
Joff won't be there, though.
No, I'm not gonna be there this year.
Yeah.
I gotta put Black Hat on my list one of these years. Maybe next year.
Zane will, and if those folks are interested in Signal Sciences, I believe it's still you have to set up a demo, right, Zane? There's no kind of free thing people can mess around with. They gotta contact your sales team, essentially.
Yeah, contact, but I promise for whatever it's worth, we're not gonna beat you with a million cyber sales things or anything like that. Like, you jump straight into a demo as soon as you contact us and have a good conversation there. That's something we've kind of prided ourselves on.
Yeah, and I've seen the demo. It's awesome. It's not painful. Believe me, it's worth your time. If you have these problems that we discussed, certainly worth your time to check out, especially if you're evaluating, like, should I do a WAF? I know not Kevin's really big on the WAF, but if you're looking at a WAF or RASP or any of these newer or even older technologies and methods to protect your web application.
Any technologies and methods.
Yes, even if it's a WAF, like not Kevin loves. Zane Lackey, thank you so much for appearing on this episode of Pulse Security Weekly.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's absolutely great to see you guys, and this is some of the most fun conversation I get to have, so I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Zane. With that, we can take a short break, come back with our next featured guest. Stay tuned.